All right, everyone, I am back. Welcome, everyone, to the #1 Raiders podcast in the world. This is the Raiders Daily Podcast. We have returned. I have not been on the air for about 2 weeks. I am back and black and ready to talk about the Oakland Raiders. They lose again. This is a very bad team. They are now 2-10. The season's obviously over. Right now, they would be picking at number 2, I believe, because the Arizona Cardinals won a game today, but the 49ers lost, and I believe the 49ers get the pick over the Raiders because of strength of schedule. Still a couple more games to play. We'll see how it all plays out in the end. But right now, we are going to talk about the game that just happened. It was the Kansas City Chiefs, the NFL darlings, versus the Oakland Raiders. The Chiefs, of course, they only have 2 losses on the season. Everyone loves the Chiefs. They're talking Super Bowl. Meanwhile, I hate to break the news to everyone. I've been saying this all through the week on the Raiders Daily Elite. That's a subscription service that I run where I do video shows throughout the week. I break news that you can't find anywhere. Nobody can touch it. It's the best subscription-based service in the world. It puts the athletic to shame. It puts everyone to shame. Nobody can touch it. No one is better at it. I have the real Raider fans there. I don't care where else you go, you don't find content, and you don't find the videos that I provide daily. The Raiders Daily Elite is the #1 Raider subscription service in the world, and I've been talking about this game all week. Everything I said, what would happen in this game, happened. D Ford, this guy was going to be a nightmare for Brandon Parker, and he was. And I also said that the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't care what the media says about them, they are overrated. I don't care what their schedule says or what the record says, I should say, they are overrated. Their defense sucks, and it was put on display today when a team goes in there, when they play a team with 2 wins, they put up 33 points off the Kansas City Chiefs, this almighty Kansas City Chiefs. They put up 33 points. The quarterback throws for almost 300 yards. Derek Carr had 20. He was 29 for 38, 285 yards. Threw 3 touchdown passes. Had a quarterback rating of, 123.2. This guy, he was throwing the ball all over the field, despite having really no wide receivers. Look at that depth chart, for crying out loud. This Raiders team it's in shambles. They have nobody. They have absolutely nobody. Martavis Bryant could not play today. By the way, on a side note, I've been talking about this Martavis Bryant situation throughout the week on the Raiders Daily Elite. I've been talking about it. Listen, the coaches are not happy with this guy. They're not happy. Remember, he got nicknamed the White Tiger because he's constantly not showing up? Well, that's a real thing, and it's still going on. He's injured. Oh, he thinks he can go. He can't go. It's getting very annoying. They also don't think he's putting the effort in the film room and elsewhere. But that's something I'm not going to talk about on here. If you want to hear more about that, you join the Raiders Daily Elite. Now, let's talk about this game. First of all, I got to put it out there. We're going to talk about defense a little bit later, but the Raiders defense, they've been allowing 6.5 yards per play for this season. That's the 3rd worst in NFL history. They are on track. They probably will to break the record for being the worst of all time on allowing yards per play. That's how bad this Raiders defense is. This Raiders defense is atrocious. They are terrible. Terrible. But let's just talk about the game. So, in the first half, the Raiders had 2 fumbles in the first half that were costly. They had 2 of them, very costly. They went on to have 2 more. In the second half, it wasn't good. Carr played well. He missed some throws again, and he still can't feel the pressure. Although it was an improvement today. Carr is now the all-time Raiders quarterback leader with yards, at least. He leads it. He's the guy. He beat out Rich Gannon. I'm stumbling over my words. I'm sorry. He beat out Rich Gannon. He now holds the record. Will Carr be the guy going forward? We don't know yet. I know Mark Davis sure wants him to be the guy. John Gruden would prefer Derek Carr to be the guy. He did good today, but it was against the Chiefs, who, by the way, the Kansas City Chiefs, they are ranked 32. 32 out of all of the teams. They are ranked dead last against the pass in the NFL. So teams have a lot of success passing against the Chiefs. Something you probably don't hear about that much. You only hear about, Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, who, by the way, go back and read the details of that guy. The Chiefs cut Kareem Hunt because he kicked the girl in the face. Meanwhile, Tyreek Hill was on top of his, his girlfriend, punching her in her stomach while she was pregnant, for crying out loud. You don't hear about that much anymore, do you? So anyways, both scumbags in my opinion. But anyways, the Chiefs' defense is not very good. So Derek Carr, I expected to come out there and play well today. My whole issue was, would he have time? And how bad how bad would he be? Now, Brandon Parker is always bad. Brandon Parker sucks. We all know this. And he let up a sack today. And I know what the Raiders say. He's just a rookie. He got rushed into that role because Donald Penn, that bum, he's broken down, so they had to rush this guy in there. But either way, I'm telling you, Brandon Parker is going to get Derek Carr injured one of these days. He really is. But the Raiders lose this game. You cannot put this game solely on Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr played pretty good. Pretty good. He did, like I said, he did fumble when he got sacked. He had success against the very overrated Chiefs defense. Carr still has to make better decisions going forward on third downs. We know that's a big key there. They were not bad today. They were 9 for 12. I just would like to see Carr's average go up for passes the rest of the season to show that he is the guy. He averaged 7 yards per pass today. He was 29 for 38 for 285 yards. Again, though, against the worst passing defense in the NFL. This game, penalties killed all momentum the Raiders got pretty much all game. Marcel Aitman, I know a lot of fans are going to say, oh my goodness, he's great, he got a touchdown. But in reality, the guy can't get no separation. He really can't. And also on that touchdown, he pushed off. It should have been an offensive pass interference. He only got 2 catches for 16 yards. Jordy Nelson. This guy's old. He's slow. He looks like a guy who sells car insurance at Geico. But he made some catches today. It was his best game as a Raider. He almost had 100 yards. He had 10 catches for 97 yards. So Jordy Nelson finally shows up today. Fantastic. I mean, if Jordy Nelson could do that every week, maybe the Raiders offense would look a lot better. Jared Cook, the MVP of the season, he was doubled mostly all game, but still, the best weapon on offense. He had a good game, 7 catches, 100 yards. Jalen Richard, I mean, this guy, he looked great today. He really did. This dude ran for 95 yards on 6 carries against the Chiefs, but that fumble took a lot of credit away from me. It really did. And DeAndre Washington, what can I say about this guy, huh? DeAndre Washington. I don't know what to say about him. He just sucks. He really does. There's no other, there's nothing else I can say about DeAndre Washington. The guy's terrible. Also on offense, Doug Martin, he's very old. We know he had that terrible fumble that resulted in points. But I'll tell you something about Doug Martin, okay? This guy is putting the effort in. Unlike some players on that defense and some on the offense, he is putting the effort in. Every game, that guy goes out and he balls out. I understand the fumble was costly. I get it. But you cannot knock that dude for the effort he puts in every single Sunday. He is fighting. Even though the Raiders are terrible, they have 2 wins on the season, this guy is fighting every inch he can get when he gets that football. So, I mean, I can mock this guy all I want. The guy's 100 years old. I understand that. But Doug Martin shows up. He shows up every week. It may not, show up on a stat sheet every week, but the guy is putting the effort in. And that's all I can ask for at this point. The season is over. I'm looking at guys who are putting the effort in. I am putting at guys who have not already just clocked out of the season, not already mentally checked out. This guy has not mentally checked out just yet. This guy is playing his ass off, and he should be rewarded for that. He really should. But listen, it came down to the defense for the Raiders. This was a game, like I said, against the Chiefs. The Raiders were having success against on offense. They were scoring points. The problem is the Chiefs' defense is so bad. The Raiders' defense is even worse. Their defense is absolutely terrible. It's astounding how bad they are. It really is. Guys like Rashawn Melvin. I mean, clearly this guy was a one-hit wonder last season. He had one good year last year. The Raiders bring him in. They're hoping they're going to get the guy they just seen, and they didn't get that guy. He's terrible. Eric Harris, listen, he's a great guy. Everyone knows that. But he has no business being on an NFL football field. I'm sorry. The guy's a great guy. He has a great story and all these things, a great family. But he's just not an NFL caliber safety. It's just the way it is. I'm sorry for being brutally honest, but that's what I do. That's what I am. That's why I have the #1 podcast in the world, because I am brutally honest. And Eric Harris, he sucks. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. And the defense as a whole just sucks. I mean, everyone out there is terrible. I'll give you a great example with this defense. The Raiders finally get a drive towards the end of the second quarter. They score a touchdown. The Raiders have so much momentum, but they left about, I think it was 40 seconds or something, maybe a minute left on the clock, a minute 40 seconds. Sorry, yeah, about a minute 40 seconds left on the clock. The defense kills all the momentum. The Chiefs just run down the field, and score a touchdown. Unbelievable. The Raiders have all this momentum going into halftime. They're getting the ball to start the third. There's only a minute 40 seconds, and this Raiders defense can't stop the Chiefs with a minute 40 seconds. That's how bad this Raiders defense is. I mean, unbelievable. I counted. Now, obviously I don't have time to rewatch all the film. So what I did was, as soon as the game ended, I went back and I rewound some things, and I watched some highlights, and I tried to isolate a couple of things. The Raiders, what I could see, they missed on 5 easy interceptions on defense. 2 in the first half and 3 in the second half. I mean, there was one with Tyreek Hill. It like bobbed off his head. I think it was Gilchrist, or it might have been Melvin. I'm sorry, I forget who it was at this point. But, I mean, the guy should have picked it off. There was another one in the fourth quarter where Mahomes throws a touchdown pass. Carlos Joseph, Rashawn Melvin, 3 defenders right there. I mean, Mahomes threw that ball with his eyes closed. He just threw a bullet. He didn't know where the ball was going. He seen a Chiefs jersey, threw it in there. The Raiders defenders, they just stood around. 5 times in this game, the Raiders could have picked off Mahomes. And even the commentary, Dan Fouts, he even said it. He even said the Raiders there's so many opportunities for them to take the ball away from Mahomes, who wasn't playing very well at all, especially in the first half. There were a lot of opportunities for the Raiders to come up with interceptions, and they just could not do it. They have no pass rush. I know people are going to say, it's because they don't have, what's his name there? Khalil Mack. Even if they had Khalil Mack, it wouldn't make a difference because it's just one player. There's no pass rush. There is no pass rush, which, in this case anyways, against the Chiefs, you don't want to have a ton. You want more guys isolated to the outside because you know he can run with the football. Either way, the Raiders knew that, and they still couldn't stop it because they're so dysfunctional on defense. So dysfunctional. But the most dysfunctional thing in this game, without a shadow of a doubt, like I said, I don't blame the coaches. I really don't. I don't blame all of the players for this game. I think the coaches dialed up the perfect game plan, and if the players executed and did their jobs on the field, the Raiders win this game, not by a field goal, but by 2 touchdowns. They had their opportunities and they blew it. Mostly because those guys don't deserve a paycheck to be in the NFL. Rashawn Melvin, pack your bags. You suck. You complain on social media. I want to be on one-on-ones. You can't be on one-on-ones because you can't stop anyone. The Raiders linebackers, they all suck. That's why they rotate Jason Kabita in there, a practice squad player. The Raiders now have to have practice squad players out there. They have so many rookies. They have Nick Nelson, who's garbage. They have all these rookies out there that don't know what they're doing. The veterans are so old. You still have Reggie Nelson on the field. Reggie Nelson. People were surprised this guy was still living. At the age of 97, Reggie Nelson is still out there playing football. I mean, I heard Reggie Nelson was around when the NFL and the AFL first merged. That's how long this guy's been playing. And he's still out there, slow as hell. Hey, I got a good idea. Let's see if Reggie Nelson can catch Tyreek Hill. That's a great idea. Great idea. You obviously know how that's going to go. Reggie Nelson couldn't stop a 6-year-old from running down the street. Never mind Tyreek Hill. But listen, like I said, I don't blame the coaches. They had the game plan. The offense was moving the ball against, like I said, the worst defense in the NFL, the worst passing defense in the NFL. The Chiefs are ranked 20th against the run, but they have a bad defense. They have Dee Ford and Justin Houston, 2 good players. After that, a bunch of bums. But the Raiders were moving the ball on offense, even though Derek Carr has literally no weapons. No one out there. They're moving the ball. They're scoring touchdowns. The defense isn't helping them. But the Raiders were in this game. They were down 3 points late in the game, 4th quarter. The defense is on the field. There's around 4 minutes left. And wow, it's 3rd down. I believe it was 3rd and 9. And the Raiders, they stop. They stopped the Kansas City Chiefs. And then the Chiefs would have had a punt to the Raiders. It had all the makings for a Derek Carr comeback and a Raiders comeback. And like I've been saying, well, I haven't been saying on here but on my TRD Elite shows, that's all the Raider fans need right now. A solid win against the Chiefs. I think a lot of fans would feel good, even if they lost the rest of their way. You know, they got to beat the Chiefs, just like last season. This was the game to do it. It really was. They had the Chiefs number. The Raiders down by 3. It's 3rd down. The Raiders need a stop. They stop them. Mahomes just throws a terrible pass to Tyreek Hill. It goes incomplete, but guess what? Fade Al Brown goes offsides. He jumps off sides, and now it's a first down for the Chiefs. Game over. Chiefs go down the field, score a touchdown. It's over. It's over. Fadal Brown ruined this game for you. If you want to point at one person who ruined the game, look at Brown. He is the guy that ruined the game. If he doesn't jump off sides, which, by the way, he didn't have to. He jumped off sides and still didn't even get close to the quarterback because he sucks. You jumped off sides. You even have an advantage, and you still can't even get even an arm length away from the quarterback. Mahomes just threw a ball out there that he probably knew wasn't going to be completed. They knew they were going to punt. It was bad execution all the way around. Fadal Brown just jumped off sides. Mahomes didn't even know it. And look at that. The Chiefs get a first down. Instead of it being fourth down, it was first down. Gives the Chiefs a whole new set of downs. And that's all they need against this Raiders terrible defense. That's all they needed. They marched down the field. They score. By that point, it was just, and by the way, that's the play I was talking about where Mahomes just threw it in the end zone. There was 3 Raider defenders there that could have either batted the ball away, intercepted it, you name it. I mean, there was a play with Worley in the end zone where he could have picked it off. Melvin had a chance to pick the ball off once. 5 times in this game. They didn't get any. They also didn't sack Mahomes 1 time, even though the guy was just running around in the pocket. Even though they actually had hands on him at points. They had hands on the guy. And they couldn't tackle him. I mean, come on, man. Come on. These players, listen. When you got Frosty Rucker's your defensive end. You're not going very far. Obviously, Gruden's not a dummy. But you know what? I have faith in John Gruden. I think he is the guy that is going to turn this around. Because not a lot of head coaches around. You put a young guy in that position, I think he would be mentally checked out. He wouldn't know what to do. And he would have just lost the locker room. Whereas John Gruden doesn't really care. He doesn't really care if he loses the locker room. You know why? Because none of those players are going to be there next season. He cares about his core group of guys, the rookies, Derek Carr, a couple other guys. I would say Derek Carr cares about probably about 10 players on that team. The rest of the guys, he doesn't care if he loses the locker room with those guys. They're there for this season. I mean, do you think he cared about Bruce Irvin? Bruce Irvin was trying to get players together to talk trash about Gruden. No, Gruden just shipped his ass out of there. And what has Bruce Irvin done? Nothing. The guy's overrated. He sucks. He plays for Atlanta. Every time he's off the field, Atlanta makes a play. I seen today, Bruce Irvin not on the field. Vic Beasley makes a big play. When Bruce Irvin's not there, that should tell you something. Bruce Irvin's a cancer of every locker room he goes to. By the way, I just want to say, too, the Giants today pulled out a big upset. Kind of crazy. But they beat the Chicago Bears. So that's going to help out the Raiders in 2 ways. The Bears lose a game, which means the Raiders pick. They get a first-round pick for Khalil Mack. That pick, obviously, will go lower. And the Giants, I believe they only had 3 wins. Now they have 4 wins. So the Raiders get to distance themselves. So it's better for them in both ways. Amazing that the Giants, who are really bad, beat Khalil Mack and the Chicago Bears. Absolutely amazing. But like I said, this Raiders-Chiefs game, it really did come down to that one play. Fadal Brown jumps off sides. The Raiders would have got the ball back. Now, I don't know what would have happened. What if Derek Carr could have thrown an interception for all I know? But what I do know is the Raiders weren't having that hard of a time marching down the field and scoring touchdowns. And I felt like the momentum at that point, the Raiders down by 3. the Raiders would have milked the clock enough and scored a touchdown at the end of the game. I really feel like that. Or at the very, very, very least, they would have kicked the field goal and it went into overtime and still gives the Raiders a chance to win the game. But Fidel Brown decided, I'm going to jump off sides for no reason and just give the Chiefs a first down. And then they just torched the Raiders for a touchdown, sealed it, up by 10. There wasn't enough time to do anything. The Raiders had to kick a field goal, which is a smart strategy, by the way. More teams should do. Instead of trying to score a touchdown and waste all that clock, kick the field goal, then go for the onside kick. It gives you more time to go for the touchdown. It's a better strategy. Gruden does it because he's a smart guy. I know the record doesn't show it, but he doesn't have the players. Jack Del Rio won 6 games, and he didn't have the players. I mean, and he had Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper and all those guys, but, he won 6 games because he didn't have the players. You don't have the players. It's unfortunate that they're in this rebuilding mode, but I don't think it's going to be as drastic as the media and the press want to tell you. As the anti-Raider reporters, they all hate the Raiders, by the way. They were really nervous the Raiders were going to win that game. They hate them. But let me tell you something. I don't think it's going to be as drastic as people think. Obviously, they're bringing in new players. Obviously, everyone's on one-year deals. These players suck. But the players they bring in are this season, this offseason, are not going to be one-year projects again. They're going to be guys that the Raiders plan on building for the future. So the future is not starting 2 or 3 years from now. Next season, the Raiders plan on competing with the guys they got. They have the draft. They're going to have probably $100 million in free agency. They're going to have a lot of money. They got to pay Jared Cook if they want him back. He will be a free agent. But they're going to have a lot of money to go get some players, some really good players, lock them in for 3 or 4 year contracts, and then the Raiders will be able to compete. Now, it's going to come down to, will it be around Derek Carr? If the Raiders decide to move on from Derek Carr, then yes, it's going to be a 2 to 3 year process. If Derek Carr stays, it's pretty much next year they're back competing. That's the way it's going to go here. But like I said about this game, the loss, it's not on the coaches. It's not on Carr. It's not on the offense. It's all on the defense. No pressure at all. Nicholas Morrow did have a couple good tackles in this game, but the secondary just sucks. They could not sack Mahomes one time all game. Yet, like I said, he was in their grasp. They just couldn't get him. Tackling continues to be an issue for this team, and they don't know how. None of these guys do. The linebackers or the secondary, they don't know how to take proper angles. And if you don't know how to take proper angles, you're not going to catch the running back. You're going to fail in the bubble screens and the jet sweeps, and that's what happens. That's why these teams are getting these big chunks of yards against the Raiders, because none of these players take the proper angles. Now, trust me, Paul Gunther knows what he's doing, okay? He may look like the guy who works at Subway, but he knows what he's doing on defense. He's coaching these guys up to take the right angles and do the right things. They're just not executing. If they were executing, I promise you, the Raiders would be winning more games. Even as bad as these players are. They wouldn't be that great, but they would probably have 4 wins by now. Probably. But it's just not the way it is. So anyways, just to wrap this up, just want Travis, good example, by the way. Travis Kelce today against the Raiders. 168 yards versus the Raiders. No defense in franchise history has allowed this many receiving yards to a tight end since 1970. 168 yards for Travis Kelce. I don't know what's going on, but it seems like I've been talking about this for 6 years, The Raiders still don't know how to stop a tight end. How? It's been 6 years. It's different coaches. It's not even the same coaches. They've been through multiple coaches. Multiple. This goes back to Dennis Allen, for crying out loud. I mean, how many coaches? It doesn't matter. They're cursed. They're cursed. They don't know how to stop a tight end. They never will. If I'm the Denver Broncos or the Chargers, I just draft tight end after tight end after tight end, because that's all you need to beat the Raiders and run the football. The Raiders are very bad at stopping the run. They're actually pretty lucky that Kareem Hunt kicked that girl in the face, because, you know, they didn't have him, but they still had Spencer Ware. He had 47 yards. Damian Williams had 38 yards. Tyreek Hill ran the ball twice, 37 yards. Patrick Mahomes ran it for 52 yards, which is embarrassing. They had 174 yards combined. They were running by committee. 174 yards combined. The Raiders combined had 171. That's embarrassing. The Chiefs they don't have Kareem Hunt. Yet the Raiders defense, I said it, well, I didn't say, I didn't have a show last week. The Ravens game, real quick before I end the show. The Ravens game last week, all the Ravens did in that second half is run the football over and over and over again. They did it 13 straight times. They told the Raiders, we're going to run it down your throats. The players, the actual Ravens players, told the Raiders defensive line, the whole defense, we're just going to keep running it. Try to stop us. And they couldn't. They ran the ball, they milked all the clock, and at the end they scored a touchdown. The Raiders knew it was coming, and these guys suck so bad, they still couldn't stop it. That was embarrassing. Embarrassing. Last week's game against the Ravens, they had the Ravens right where they wanted them. Lamar Jackson was pretending he was like a pocket quarterback for the first half. The Raiders should have been up 30-0 at that point. But then the second half, the Ravens made halftime adjustments. They said, wait a minute, we ran it a couple of times, and it seems like that defense doesn't know how to tackle us before we get like 9 yards or 7 yards. So let's just run the football every single time and see what happens. And all of a sudden, they did. And they were like, well, why bother even trying to pass? Just keep running it and we'll win the game. That's what happens when you have the worst defense in football. The Raiders' defense is just atrocious. They all suck. Rashawn Melvin sucks. Darryl Worley sucks. Tahir Whitehead sucks. They all suck. But let me make this crystal clear. This thing is going to turn around. This machine known as the Raiders is going to turn around. And the Kansas City Chiefs, they have nothing really to celebrate about. They are the most overrated team in the NFL. Their defense sucks just as much as the Raiders. It's just they have tons of weapons on offense. They have Travis Kelce, like I said, probably the best tight end in football. They have Tyreek Hill. No one has that speed. They have really good playmakers out there. They have Patrick Mahomes, who is a rookie, so it usually takes teams a year to get film on him. Who knows? This guy could be a one-season hit wonder. Next year, he could be awful because teams have a whole bunch of tape on him. You don't know. But the Chiefs are going to take advantage of teams not knowing what he's going to do right now, and he does make some accurate throws, no doubt about it, but he's made terrible throws today, not accurate throws at all, throws that should have been intercepted. The Chiefs are not that great. I don't care what their record says. They let the Raiders score 33 points on them, and the Raiders were in that game with 4 or 3 minutes left in that game, only down 3 points. If Fidel Brown never jumps off sides, you don't know what happens. Derek Carr could have came back with a game-ending touchdown. You just don't know. So here's my message to you, Raider Nation, to the fans. It may be bad this season. Hope for a win, maybe against the Broncos or something like that. But I am telling you, when this thing gets turned around, when this whole thing gets turned around, all these reporters who are laughing at the Raiders, laughing at Mark Davis, laughing at John Gruden, they are going to have egg on their faces because the Raiders are building for success. You don't get that many draft picks and fail. You just don't. This team is building capital. This team is gearing towards the future. And this team, I promise you, I know football. This team is going to be a force. And I guarantee you, within the next 6 years, this Raiders team will be holding up a Lombardi trophy. Mark my words. My name is Stephen Michaels. Thank you for listening to the greatest podcast in the world. This is the Raiders Daily.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.